someone here in person today.
Well, I am so excited because we are here with Lauren Scott, Larry, my friend Larry.
Larry,
thank you so much for coming all the way to Jersey. I know you needed a passport to get here.
No, I actually didn't. Cuomo let me over the border.
I mean, that was so nice of him.
So nice. Usually you have to quarantine 14 days. 14 minutes I sat in my car.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Had no choice.
Well, if anybody doesn't realize who Larry is, he's Larry from Larry Party, Lauren Scott Events. He does everybody's event. I mean, he's not known for housewife events, though he's done them. He does real celebrities, not Bravo celebrities. He's done everybody from Janet Jackson to major political people. He does Judge Judy. He does John Legend. He's done
Drew Barrymore, Hillary Swank,
the fabulous Miss M. We're not going to mention her, but Madonna. We could cut that out, by the way.
We don't have to. It's fine. You know,
he's done.
We call somebody the material. We call material girl.
Material girl.
I think when we sign those papers, it's over. We could say yes.
Yeah, we could say. I mean,
we did Madonna's 57th birthday party.
Yeah, she's older than the Marge. Thank God.
So I don't know. She's probably maybe 43 now.
I know, she goes back in years. He has done everybody's event, but you know when you go to a Larry party, you are getting the cream of the crop event. Something's never anybody's seen before. It is like a theatrical experience. You go in there, it like fills up everybody's senses, right?
Oh, it's immersive. Like you go
I
in
cannot
and
get
it
over it.
Just envelops you in like drama and the feeling. It really is. I mean, once you experience one, every party you ever go to after that is actually shit.
Exactly, and it's true.
I'm going to be honest.
I would probably say it's different levels. I think the difference between like the Larry party, which is not my party, and the reason, like, it's really funny, like people say, "Oh my God, what an ego!" It's not the Larry party, the Larry experience is I'm a storyteller. It's not like you're just buying flowers or food or music. In other words, something has to die for something else to come forward. It's like really a great decorator. It's not design a showcase. And my parties are storytelling, which is like if I'm telling Margaret's story, it's her story, not mine. So it's her taste, my style. So there's a beginning, which is A, and there's an ending, which is Z. And in between, if you're only looking at the cover, you're not really getting to know the whole story. So you have to stay around for the whole story. It's not one facet of the party.
That's what I absolutely love. And I just want to say before we dive into how you became Larry Party, Lauren Scott, you elevated my show, Jersey, which I have to say, we never had parties like you until you came on. And it's so funny because you did my 50th birthday. Since then, you've done my charity events, you've done Melissa's party, and everybody said, until I came on, I'm just going to say it, I'm going to toot my own little horn. Parties in Jersey were not spectacular or as interesting till you started doing the party. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
It's true.
Well, no one was riding in on a white horse.
No, yeah, black horse.
A black horse.
White dress and black horse.
But you know what? For me, it's really funny because sometimes people say like this, oh, you shouldn't do that person's party. You shouldn't do this one or whatever. But people don't realize, you know what? Let's say I deal with a certain clientele and whatever it is, it doesn't mean I have to like each person. It's not about an emotion. I'm telling somebody's story. It's a business. So whether somebody likes this person, what does business have to do with liking?
Are you trying to say you don't like me?
No, I do because you want to know something. For me, it's very interesting.
Yes.
Because a friend of yours, Karen, how we have a
yes.
mutual friend.
Yes.
I think for a while she had said to me, I have a friend, Margaret, would you, do her party, whatever. And at that point, I wasn't really doing them. And then I realized as I started to mature in business and in really just in a thought process for being in business, I don't think you get to pick and choose as you're a little bit more independent. But I just thought that it was like not the right avenue for me. But like, I think everything's the right avenue because everybody should experience, like, you know what? So the people that watch your show, from me, it's like, you know what? It's a whole nother group. Why shouldn't they see the Rolls Royce of parties? So your following, okay, gets rich, not rich, middle class, poor. Everybody watches it, you know what I mean? Because you touch on a lot of people.
Exactly.
And what reality is, which people don't realize, like, you know what, when we were growing up, you watch, let's say, All in the Family, and which character, or like you watch The Golden Girls, which character did you relate to? And that's why today, in other words, which housewife do you relate to? So in other words, today it's about even the party experience. So if Margaret was excuse my mouth, the ballsy enough to even attempt to make the phone call to call me to say, would you do the party? I said yes. Now she's stuck with me, and I'm stuck with her, which is a pleasure.
Which I'm blessed. I mean, there's no one else I want to be stuck with.
Nah, because I think it's okay. You know, it's almost like, you know, like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. You know, you watch that show because you want to see how the other half lived. So I don't think you pick and choose that way. So I'm blessed that you're allowing me in, because I don't think I'm just for rich. Do you know what I'm saying? I think I'm for everybody.
And I think you inspire people and teach people how to have style. And I think that's what our podcast is about. So let's talk about like when you were young. Like, what made you do this? What did you want to be when you grew up?
You know, it's interesting. You know, there were 5 kids in my family growing up, and there was 1 bathroom, and we waited online to go to the bathroom, and we had chores. Somebody had to put the garbage out, and somebody had to do this or that. You had to make your bed before you left in the morning for school, and we did wait online for this bathroom. And my father came from also very humble beginnings. He owned luncheonettes, which was a big deal, I guess, in those days. And I was like a snotty little, I wanted more. And I remember making a comment to a newspaper years ago when I started becoming a little bit more popular. And I said I couldn't be creative with a tuna fish sandwich. So, but you know what? That's how I felt. But without sounding terrible, but you know what? My father was very sick and he was dying, and he grabbed my hand on a respirator because he didn't want to die thinking that I would think that he didn't love me. And I realized that comment was dumb, because those tuna fish sandwiches put 5 kids through college.
Yes.
So that's the point. So that's why when I say something like this with you doing this show, everybody has to understand how every part and how everybody lives. It's not one-sided. You know, that's what I think when you live those shoes, or your eyes are open and you're educated, you stop judging. And
it's
unfortunately,
true,
we all judge.
Of
so
course.
I judged that I wanted more, but who am I to judge? It was a different era. So I came from nothing, and now it made me say, I have to start giving back. So at the age of 20-something, I started giving. That's the way we were raised. You give back. So there's always part of my money that goes to charity and helping other people out. You know what I'm saying? And not just rich charities, but everyday charities. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I think part of my journey, my A to Z for my journey, my story, is I came from nothing. I made some money, got cocky, lost the money. And now I understand
I know that
it.
feeling.
And now I understand it.
So
in other words, everyone's story is different. That's why I'm a good storyteller.
You are a good storyteller. Tell me, Larry, did you ever work for somebody else who does events?
Yeah.
Who did you have a mentor?
I didn't have a mentor. I learned a lot. You know what? I think when I was growing up, I worked 3 jobs. At the age of 13, we were working. You know, I worked a snack bar. I worked a country club. You know, I had a paper route. Again, we had 5 kids. I wanted to make money. My parents couldn't afford a lot, so they made us go out and work. It wasn't just about schooling. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about, the way I was raised, it was not about joining a sport team or having an instrument being played. It was about going to work. You know, they needed help, I guess, or that generation was all about going to work and not, you know, we weren't on the soccer team. It wasn't a football team. I wasn't going to, you know, football games on the weekend. I was working to survive with my family. Do you know what I'm saying? And it was all about work ethics, you know, different than today. I think there's so much emphasis put on what you can achieve, like in other words, whether it's playing a flute or education, and I think it's a balance. I think you have to have education, but you should also have work ethics, and that's how I feel I've learned from this also.
No, I absolutely agree. So tell me, how long has Lauren Scott in business?
This is our 31st year being in business.
31 years.
Yeah, 31
That's
years.
very impressive.
And it's, you know, it's really crazy. I thought at my age, I'm 61 years old this year, and I said, oh my God, now I get to skate. I killed myself. I worked my butt. And all of a sudden this pandemic, and everybody's pandemic is their own, and we all... So I had meltdowns, and
it's killed the event business a little bit because people can't be together. You had to pivot.
It did, but you know, for me, it's not just killing business. It's sort of like, I married my business. It's not like I have a partner or a wife or kids at home. Like, I married my business. And I remember after listening to, the news, and they told you to keep people employed or whatever, and I did it for 5 weeks, and then I had to lay people off. I remember having a meltdown, and I remember in my backyard, I literally couldn't stop crying because I thought I was a loser. I thought I was a failure. At 31 years, I gave false sense of security to my employees who gave me their lives. So I had to lay them off. So there's so much learning from this. But again, I could have easily walked away, but I don't think God wants me to. I think He wants me to start over. And it's like you're a role model. So I'm a role model for a lot of people.
Yes, of course.
You know what I'm
Larry,
saying?
you've been in business
Yeah.
and done these things. So just tell us how people pivot events like now, because I feel like people want to get out there. We had to take a break.
I think, the two types of people, it's here, like in the 80s, and I remember during the Reagan days, like they were throwing money at everybody. And you know what? And then all of a sudden we went into a bad economy, and then people wait for it to come back. You know what? I don't think you could wait for it to come back. I think I took a pause, which I needed. It did me a lot of good. So when this started, I had laid people off, and it really destroyed me laying people off. I literally was, as a grown man, crying because I thought I failed these people. I thought it was I just thought I failed. And I never thought that I had to look at it as like this was totally out of my control. And I'm a control freak. This is the only thing. There's two things that I was able to control in my life, and I always felt that way. One was my body, and one was my business. So thank God I was gifted enough to finish a gym in my home, so I had the gym so I can control the body end of it, but I couldn't control my business, and that frustrated me. And being creative, there's so much crazy stuff that goes on in a creative person's head. I didn't know what to do with that. I always have my mother and father sitting on my shoulder. God bless them, they're not in my life, but they always taught me, like, if I took off an hour, just at any time in my life, they were like, well, who's watching the place? Like, they didn't believe in taking off. Again, different work ethic. We came from a different world. So it gave me a pause and saying, you know what? I don't like this anymore. I don't like that anymore. And you did a lot of soul searching. And then I said, you know what? And some of those people that I was around for a while were very toxic. And I didn't want to jump in that quicksand anymore because toxicity makes you negative. So when all of a sudden, if there's an angel on this side of my shoulder and the other shoulder has the devil, which is opposites, and everybody has it. You can't go up without coming down. You can't push without pulling up. It's the opposite. And when that devil came out too much and I spoke poorly to somebody because I was resenting them because they just kept trying to lie, I said, this is not good. So the pandemic also made me sort of get rid of a lot of the bad luggage. And I think it's a cleansing period. Mm-hmm. Now I have to start over. And the reason I have to start over because it's not just about me. There are people that need that mentor. They need that inspiration. So you know what? I chose that, when you're a leader, which I realized I'm a leader, you don't know if you go down Park Avenue, if it's the right block to go down. You don't know. And it's a scary thing to lead because you know what? Your decision influences and is responsible for other people following. And you have to take those risks in life and you have to deal with it. So I chose to stay as a leader because I stopped following when I was in my 20s. And I started to lead when I had my own business. And you make mistakes. So at this point, I'm going to get through this pandemic. And I'm going to still lead because that's what I'm here to do, lead.
That's great. That's so inspirational. That's so good. You didn't tell me, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I always wanted to be a rock star.
I always wanted to marry a rock star. I didn't want to be a rock star. I always wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah, I always had that V shape growing up, and you know what?
And you're tall. You look like a rock star. But you're the rock star at parties.
My big boots on, my tight jeans, and a T-shirt, hanging on that microphone. No backup singers, only me.
I get it. See, I always wanted to marry a rock star. I felt like I looked like Rock and Roll Girlfriend, so I get the feeling.
I
love
marry
that.
a rock star, but he's not anymore. He wasn't.
I slept with some rock stars. So does that count?
You slept with it. You want to know something? But to me, it's like,
I love it.
And I don't know. It's not the singing. It's like you wanted. I think part of being successful is the opposite. You have to have these insecurities. What drives you? And as a kid, I was bullied. And you know what? And people would say, "You were bullied," and yeah, I was bullied. You know what I'm saying? So I went to Hicksville High School where Billy Joel, Mercedes Ruehl, and a lot of those kind of people on Long Island. And I'm from Long Island. I'm proud to say I'm from Long Island. I'm not from the West Village, even though I lived there for 25 years. And people always have to say "Oh, this is my identity. I live." No, I'm from Long Island. I'm proud. I don't give a shit if you like my accent or not. It's who I am. It's inbred in me. So. I just felt that, as a bullied kid, it drove me, and the rock star was I needed to push myself in the front of the stage to say, okay, I'm here, and you want to know something, and it gives you that control, security. So it's not necessarily the singing. You want it to be in front, but once I have that stage, and I do, the difference between the rock star, I don't stay on the stage anymore, so I'm more behind the camera. So I direct, I produce, and I walk away. And even though it's the Larry party, it's not my party. My guests, like if I have a bride and groom, they're the chandelier. Their guests are the bulbs, and I'm the dimmer switch. And that's where you have to know when to walk away. It's their turn. They hired me to tell their story. It's not for me to walk through and everybody say, "Oh, that's Larry." I don't need that, and they shouldn't have it from me, because it takes attention away from maybe 20 guests not getting on the dance floor to dance. And that's when you know you're secure and made it.
I know. I think, you know what? That's so impressive. I love that. Let me ask you some questions that, for events or people who are listening, because everyone always everybody can't afford the most expensive party, but everyone always says, I have a thing about parties. What do you think I know there's so many important things at a party, but what do you think actually makes a party? What is one thing a party can't live without? Listen, I've been to parties with
It's not about living without. I think it's making people feel that they are a major bulb on that chandelier. There are certain people that it just becomes so about them. Margaret, when I come into your house, you and your husband Joe I've watched you. You're the perfect hostess, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, Frank. No, I'll tell you why. You make it about them. A good host and hostess, it's not about the liquor or the this or the that. You know what? When you make them feel so important at their house, it's like, you know what? That's a great way. That's the cake of the party. The icing becomes the bar, the food, the service. This. Listen, there's 5 assholes coming to anybody's party, whether they have money or not. They don't wish you well. One's your best friend. They're jealous. You know what? True. Don't bleed and don't feed into that, because you're never going to win them over. It doesn't matter. It's like the girl that you never heard from, or the guy, their friend the whole year. You invite them to a party. All of a sudden that week they're calling like crazy. They're planting the seed in your head to make sure that they are relevant or center of attention at your party. Those are the people that, who gives a shit about them, because they're just doing it for that week. Yeah, they could call, but you know what? I know those types of people. But the person that's around you all year round, make them feel important, because that's your inner circle.
It's true. I absolutely agree.
But my best revenge is success.
I know that feeling.
So your best revenge is make that person who made that call because they want to be relevant. Give them their relevance, but don't give them the stage for the whole night.
It's true.
Okay?
It's absolutely true.
Because they're all going to have something to say.
How do you feel about, I always say, it's just it's so important to have good music. At a party. I hate when I go to a wedding. There's certain parties that have to have the music. If you go to a wedding and the music sucks, I have a freak out. How do you feel about that?
I think music is very key, is in lighting. It sets the tone, but I don't think it's
bad lighting.
No, I don't. Not about bad lighting. I think lighting, it sets the tone and atmosphere depending on the venue. You could be in a loft and have cobwebs, and if it's during the day, it's like this place is dirty. And if you have cobwebs in a loft and it's at night, it becomes sexy almost. It sort of glows. So lighting is really, really key. I think the biggest thing for me is I don't love dance floors per se. Maybe at a wedding or something, but I love that more European, and I've traveled Europe and everything, and it's all about an education. I think it's cool just to be dancing around tables or whatever. It's almost it's not when I was younger, everything was about did you dance all night long? It's not about dancing all night long. Some people just want to lounge and sit on a couch and things come over to them. Do you know what I'm saying? And then I think speeches become a little important at certain parties. Every story is different.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
and
every story has a different importance.
Different. Depends. A birthday party is different than a wedding, and a wedding is different. But I'm not Martha Stewart, page 34, volume 6 either.
No,
I beat
every
to my
story's
own
different.
drum.
No, absolutely. But I'm just thinking, like, say, what do you think is a waste of money? What do you think people like spend money on at a party?
I'm not going to say that because in my industry, we all have to make a living. So by me taking...
No, just say it, Larry, people are listening. I'm trying to teach the caviar dreamers, tuna fish budget people. Like what, people are inspired by you. What do you think's a waste of money?
I used to think a wedding cake was a waste of money when people were spending these crazy numbers. But I still think today, by being... I want to say a little bit traditional and history repeats itself. Today, I think the occasion cake for me for a wedding becomes almost that chandelier in the room.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be all edible, but I think it should have some sort of presence. Or if it's not in the room, parade in at the end, okay, to make it important, like the wedding cake is coming. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I love to play up that cake. But to sit there and have a designer cake and, oh my God, he's into golf, he's into this, and I see that same stupid cake, I could vomit. Maybe they're into yodels. Give them a big yodel cake.
I love it. You know the way I feel about your yodels.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, some of these people take it so seriously.
With the jelly
You know what I'm saying? It's they take it too seriously, like these cakes sometimes.
Now, I like live music. I personally love a band. Bands are very expensive, but I'm all about live music and a band.
They're fine. They listen. How do I talk about bands? Again, depending on the situation. I don't like hiccups at a party. I think that kills it. Picture yourself drinking for 2.5 hours. Now, I'm not a drinker, but
I don't drink. You know
all
me.
right,
I don't drink
but there are
either.
people. Most people go to a party, they drink. If that music goes out because the band just starts going to break, and there's one musician out of 14.
No, I don't like that.
No.
Well, that's what happens.
No, or you could have a DJ backup.
You can, but in other words, after a while, it's like going to the old days of Red Parrot in New York City. When the DJ came on, the sound system was so boom. By the time the band came on, you thought you were listening to like a jukebox.
I know. I just
say-
feel like a live music gets the crowd going.
Depends.
That's me.
Depends on the story. Sometimes, you know what? It's like, again, like not being Martha Stewart, page 34, volume 6. You can have great canned music in the beginning, like Buddha Bar, Nikki Beach music, but leading into a DJ. And then, boom, right after the main course, a live band comes on because it doesn't have to be like band, DJ. That's so typical. I think, you know what, for me, my rock star image, my rock star way of thinking is there are no rules. I'll do whatever I want. It's about, there has to be food, there has to be a beginning and an end. I love when it becomes to a formal play, like a formal dinner. Then, in other words, there's a big cocktail hour because people love hors d'oeuvres and desserts. They could give a shit about the dinner, but yet one course. I don't need 4 courses in between. Maybe that's when the band comes on, when there's a big dance set. Do you know what I'm saying? It's how I structure the party. And again, it's not my story. It's yours.
Now, do you ever relax and sleep, or do you have ADD?
No,
is your brain constantly going?
It's always a creative individual. It's like almost my brother. It's really interesting.
I say the same thing.
He said to me really fast. I'm sorry. He said to me, he goes like this. It's almost a curse. It is because you can't turn it off. But you know what?
Us.
I'd rather have the curse than that.
Me too.
I feel the same way. Like when you came into my house today, you said I was like on crack or a lot of coffee. My mind is constantly going. I feel like I don't sleep, and I think that is the curse of creative people.
Well, thank God we could call each other.
Well, you know what? The
Yes.
curse is maybe the creative people with the mind, but your mouth didn't shut up.
Well, my creative mind just it filters out my mouth. I can't help it. It's the never ending. So tell me some, you know what? So you're doing more parties. Now people are getting back.
No, not doing more parties. I think.
No, meaning like people are, now they feel more comfortable with the social
No,
distancing.
they really don't. No, I think this thing and through media and whatnot put the fear of God that, you know what, if you got COVID, you were dying and all this stuff. I don't think you're dying. I think there are therapeutics and all that kind of stuff. But again, it's not up to me or you or anybody else to convince them. This is why I used to think we're going to come out of it sooner than later. It's going to take a while because once there is a therapeutic or is there a vaccine, and who knows if there's going to be a vaccine. I'm not a doctor. All I'm saying, it's going to take a while because you know what? There are people. This is what I say to people in my industry. Like I remember having a 50th birthday party years back, and you know what? My mother couldn't travel at that age, and she was living in Florida, so she didn't come up. So there are people. Let's say you were originally having 300 people to your kid's wedding, maybe 200 would show up, but at least 200 people are coming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? like I don't think you stop there. Right now, there are brides and even coming of age kids that, you know what, if they were going to be 13 years old, by the time they were 14, if they can't have that same party, it's different groups of kids, different schools. It's the same with an older bride. If there's a bride who's late 20s or early 30s, she wants to start children. A younger bride can wait another year.
Yeah.
So in other words, so those brides, like they started out saying, oh, we're going to have a wedding later, we're going to do a smaller wedding. They never do. Once you, it's all the hype. Like you're getting married. Once you wear the dress and you got married, and if there's, I don't care if there's 20 people in your backyard or 30, your head's not into going to a whole big wedding again. It's over. It's done. So right now we're trying to get some of those. We're not cheap, so we're not getting all of those. I'm sure there's maybe more in the masses, but you know, ours is a little bit more limited. We're with the 1%, and the ones that have done it, we try to put on social media and whatnot to show, maybe there's an example, like instead of spending all this money on flowers, you could put a lamp on a table or whatever it is to still make yourself a special day.
So Larry, do you have like a huge warehouse of stuff? Because I've been
3
to warehouses.
warehouses.
Yeah, Larry has
Yeah.
3 warehouses. I mean, do you just see? I mean, do you
I
just
guess
see
you
stuff?
no, it's like I guess I'm a hoarder. I don't know how to throw things away. We purged. Bobby's here with me today, someplace. Bobby, you here?
I'm here.
Yeah, Bobby's here. So we purged a few times, and they would go like this. Okay, we're throwing, and they would be ready to throw it in this like 30-yard dumpster. I'm like, no. I'd be in there sneaking in, pulling it back out, and shoving it back on the shelf because it's like part of my life, my story. Like all of a sudden, like, but that was so good. It's gonna be retro one day.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it'll come back around.
But I needed to like, well,
It'll come back
whatever.
around.
It's like a little scary.
Well, you know what? You are so impressive. You're so fabulous. I mean, I can't wait till we could get back to hugging and
I know.
dancing and partying.
I
Go
want
ahead.
to ask you one question because this always intrigues me. You throw the best parties for everyone else. Do you ever throw yourself a party?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Well, yeah, I threw myself a few. The stress level is like crazy because you know what it is? I never used to, I would say I don't care. And then the week of the party, I was like, I never addressed my own party. And I just, I change, it gives me, I'm better under pressure. So what I'm saying is like, you know how somebody finishes their home before they're having a party or they get the contractors going or whatever?
Yeah,
Like
like
us?
us.
Like
Yes,
It gives
like
you
us.
a reason to make sure that you finish it.
Yes.
And you have to make a decision. People, you know, become like non-decision makers and they just procrastinate. But I think when you're under the wire, especially with a creative person, you get it done. So my parties, yeah, like I had to figure out how to do a social distance party. I did it at the last minute, and I, you know, this summer it was like, you know, models in inner tubes and Berkelinis with goggles on. Do you know what I'm saying? It's how you do it. I'm not floating centerpieces in a pool. Or I had my 50th birthday party at Cipriani 55 Wall Street. So I had 147 people sitting at long
I
tables.
love that.
And then I had 60 gospel singers after dinner serenade the room coming down the steps, and people were like, what is that? In other words, I want to, it's not for me, it's for my guests. I'm entertaining my guests. So what people have to remember, and you go back to the first question you asked me, how do you make a great party? What goes into making a great party? By making everybody feel they're part of that party. And yet they have to feel part of the inner circle. And you know what? We already know who the hostess are. We just know. But when they take a step back and allow their guests are going to follow them eventually. You know what I'm saying? So
It's true.
the pressure making my own party, I try not to make too many anymore.
I don't blame you. No, it's very pressure.
It is, it
That's
is.
why I did my wedding in 6 weeks
Yeah,
because I
because-
needed that pressure
Yeah,
too.
and my people, I'm always worried no one's coming, and like everyone's pissed because they weren't invited because they know,
know that
they
feeling.
know I'm going to do something. I mean, like
Yeah.
one summer I had 10 tables of 10 at a table, square tables in my backyard. And during dinner when they sat down, and I had Michael Strahan in the backyard and Rosanna Scotto and Chris Raggi, and you know, we had all these people, and I'm just mentioning the celebrities plus all my other friends. And I said, oh, what do I do? So what do? I put on opera music, and I had 4 drag queen tennis players come out and
I love
play
that.
tennis as a show. And people are like, what is that? It's
I
not the
love
expected. So that's what I do.
See, but
it's
that's what I
mixing
love.
worlds. It's the Studio 54 of mixing worlds. It's
I
old,
love
it's
it.
young, it's straight, it's gay, it's black, it's white, it's everything.
And that's
love
what I
that.
love. See, that's what I love. Everything you do, it's the unexpected, and it's so over the top, and it's so not typical. See, because I love that. I feel like I'm so crazy and creative. And I so appreciate it and just love everything you do. So that's why I get so fucking excited.
Right.
So that's why my crazy.
And you know, the
kicks in.
one thing with creative people, you
I
know
love
what?
that. I wish I had a tennis court to do that.
Yeah, you will one day.
Yeah, not on this freaking one. I'm finally
you'll
doing my
figure it
outdoor
out, though.
kitchen.
Do it in the pool. You'll have drag queen tell you can't put them in the pool because they make
Last year I had my
they're
drag
making-
queen brunch. I don't want the makeup.
But I think in anybody who's creative or anybody, you have to sort of hold back. You have to. It's almost like you can't. You can go to the edge, but you can't go over. And sometimes trying too hard is trying too hard. So that's why I say something has to die for something else to come forward. Because the party was so gorgeous and clean.
Yeah, and then
there
you
was
do that one
food
thing.
that all of a sudden it was like it was. Am I allowed to swear on podcast?
Yes,
It was my fuck you moment. Don't fuck with me. I'm the best at what I do.
You are. And by
so
the
that's
way-
my best revenge. Like in other words, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, fuck you. Go
See, that's the way I feel. I feel like you're my best revenge. I was just like, everybody thought they were so great on Jersey, then I showed up with you. I was like, fuck you, people!
Right.
Don't fuck with the Marge. You don't think I have great taste? I do. I got Larry.
Right, thanks.
That's right.
Right? No. I was like,
And I just want to say something. So Bobby behind me, Bobby is amazing. He's been with me for a long time. He started with me like at Larry and the Redhead, and I always have to give him credit because without him, he's like my rock and Steve and all my guys in my company. But Bobby is here, and I just want to mention his name because I know he's sitting behind me, and he has to get credit because I didn't get here on my own.
no,
I
by the
love
way, you're
that.
only as good as your team. And I always say that
Right.
Lexi's the real Margaret Josephs, and I can never do it without her. So I know the feeling. So, Larry, always at the end of the podcast, we have like 3 questions that we always ask entrepreneurs. Because obviously you're the most entrepreneurial person. You've had your business for 31 years. You're so creative. You really made something out of nothing, just a thought in your idea and changed an industry. So what is your most entrepreneur real advice? Not like have a budget, do this, to like young people starting out with a dream.
Don't chase money ever. It's like everybody's things. You chase whatever you wake up every day and feel and love. I don't care if it's like emptying garbage, whatever it is. Just chase that passion because your passion's what's going to make you get up every day and love what you do. The money will come. Never chase money. If you're chasing money, you're always going to lose. It's like waiting to win lotto. You know what I'm saying? Forget it. It's not happening.
I agree.
We say the same thing.
Go ahead.
So we always say the Marge is 50% delusion and 50% determination, and that's what's kind of in the recipe for her success. What are your percentages?
I want to say a lot of it had to do with my insecurity and saying like, oh my God. And then when I got the security, like even decorating a room, I started out first in food because my parents had the luncheonette business. So I was doing food, and then I was, doing the art of food where people first eat with their eyes. So it should be pretty, and it didn't matter what it tasted like. But then you need to make sure it tasted well as long as it looked good. And then I would look at rooms from these people and go like this, oh my God, they're horrible. They're decorators? This is horrible. So then I start to master that. It's the controlling in me. So I think, you know what? It's this drive that you have that you can't settle. Once you settle, like when I rest on my laurels, I'm done. It's over. So I think anybody who's good is doubts themselves, and what keeps them propelling forward is really that their need to constantly excel, their need to constantly be... They're challenging themselves. It's not the people. They're not looking for the approval of people. They're looking for approval from themselves in the long run, which people don't realize, which is what we do with our parents. We always try to make our parents proud, and we want their approval. So sometimes I go like this, my mother's dead, I don't need your approval, but I need my own. Mm-hmm. And when I have my approval, I know I'm good.
So were you determination or delusion? Which percentage?
Determination.
100%? No
100%.
delusion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I always have a
sometimes,
little
you know what? There's a little percent delusion, but no, delusion doesn't. If you're delusional, you're never successful. So
I
you're
don't know.
successful.
I always feel like
No, but you're
delusional was like my dream. Like I always say, I'm successful. I say I was determined, but I was like,
You're not delusional. If you felt you were delusional, that's you weren't really giving yourself enough credit.
No,
and now
exactly.
That you're here,
But like,
you
now
have
that
to
I'm
let
here,
no, delusional has to be put out, and merely your passion and you're moving forward is what's going to
no,
keep
of
you
course,
in
but
this
like
person.
like when you're young, I'm the eternal optimist.
There was no option to fail.
Yeah, there was.
your
That's my
delusion.
delusion. There was no
Like, there was
option
no
to
chance
fail.
it wasn't going to work. It was always
Yeah, like
gonna work.
same thing like with the house. I'm
But
like,
that's
we'll do this in
but
3
that's
weeks. We're getting it.
delusional. I'll tell you why. When you're delusional, it's like less resting on your laurels. So to me, I'm not resting on my laurels because I didn't. It was the disappointment. I don't know if I'm like really, like I don't look at you as delusional.
No. I feel like, my delusion. I would say, like growing up, I was I never not thought I was like kind of famous. In my head, I was always
and I didn't.
like
think
in my
that.
head,
You
I
understand
didn't
what I'm saying?
know. Like I didn't
It's
realize.
like parental blindness. Sometimes you look at a kid after he murdered the whole world
Yeah.
and go like this. That wasn't my kid, but we saw it on video.
No, I know.
Yeah.
No, I
You
wasn't
understand?
that. I wasn't delusional, not thinking something was happening, but just like I was always like, oh, of course I'll be famous one day. Not a big deal. I'll work my way there. I was
never
just like,
had that.
it's
Never.
inevitable. I'm crazy. In my head,
Yes.
like my
But
brother-in-law,
now,
whatever,
wait a
said,
second.
yes.
Yeah, but now, listen to me. So it's okay that you were there then, but it should be changing the ratio because I'll tell you
Yes,
why.
of course.
It's harder to stay on top because you know
Oh,
what?
yeah, but this is a
That's
job.
why it's not delusional anymore. Because what happens is
Yes.
that's pushed out of the forefront.
Yes,
And now
exactly.
it's like, oh my God,
Yeah,
you
the
put this
percentages
pressure
have
on you to
changed.
make sure how do I
Yes.
stay. It's easy to get that. Look, I used to say to people
Oh,
all
it's
the
up
time.
to- yeah.
It's so easy to make money. It's harder to keep it.
Oi, forget it.
So in
And
other
I've
words,
lost
so
it a
now
lot.
it's the same thing in
Yes.
business. Anybody could be in business, but that most people throw the
Yeah.
wrench in and sabotage it because they're afraid really of real success. And real success takes a lot of competition, a lot of work, and sometimes it's not about you. And then you have to sometimes wait, but think it through, and then boom, you catapult yourself to the next level, which is 10, and you leave them in the dust. That's your revenge. That's your success. Not being malicious. I mean, somebody once said to me, go like this, you're such a shrewd businessman. I said, I'm not shrewd. I'm a smart businessman. Shrewd is trying to get over on somebody. So I don't look at you as delusional.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
All
I'm
right.
going to change my percentages. And what in your life, at what point in your career, I always call it my big girl panties moment. What in your career, what was your like big boy boxers or big boy briefs moment, like big girl panty moment? I think you
think when I
realized like,
stood-
holy shit, I got to do this.
No, I think when I had to make a speech, I sold out. I was the only one on the East Coast, New York City, which is the biggest, smallest city in the world.
Yes.
And I sold out Make-A-Wish for the first time in 32 years, me personally. Not Donald Trump, not this one, not the head of Bear Stearns. Larry Scott, stood on stage in front of 850 people at Cipriani downtown Wall Street. Judge Judy had introduced me. And I brought my staff on stage where the owner of the Mets, Saul Katz, was there. I mean, I personally brought in 44 tables. And it's almost like that Sally Field moment. You like me, you really like me. And I was standing on stage and I said, I didn't do this by myself. And I called my entire company up and I said,
That was so
if you
nice.
love me, you love them because they are my family. And when I got off the stage, like people could not believe I did that. But that was my moment where I said, I think I made it. Like, I think I'm respected. But what keeps me here today is it's over. Don't fall in love with it. Move on. Because you know what? That moment doesn't give you the right to be cocky.
No.
Or all of a sudden you're better than somebody and you start over. And that's why we're back to the pandemic. I'm starting over because I'm meant to be a leader.
No, absolutely.
It's
Harry,
funny. Do you have imposter syndrome? Because I always say, it's funny. We've talked about this a lot, and I know a lot of people have it. When I go to a wedding, I almost feel like I should still be at the kids' table. I'm like, always feel like I'm going to be found out.
We all feel that way. That's
Yeah.
any successful person always
I
feels
think-
like, oh my God, you're going to be found out. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I go like this, how am I going to do this?
I think,
Yeah.
I think true entrepreneurs and true successful people feel that way. Like, is this really, is this really me? They're going to find us out.
I think
like,
that's part of it's part of being successful. It's the insecure, like in other words. But I think you get past that stage. I think what happens is you realize, look, when I was 35 years old, why wasn't I getting, and I know this sounds really obnoxious right now, but why am I not getting the $1 million wedding? In my industry, again, I'm in the 1%, and I'm being very creative how do I say this? I'm doing these big parties. I aspire to do it, but like I know that, you know what, some gentleman or couple that's making their daughter's wedding who is philanthropic. That's why I say don't be haters. A lot of these people that have a lot of money are very philanthropic. They give a lot of money to charities, to schools and whatnot. And they're just showing sometimes the other side of how other people could live and what you could aspire to in this world, and especially being American. And I said, you know what, why am I not getting those jobs? Because I don't know at the age of 61 now that I would give some young person $1 million to do my kid's wedding.
No, of
They're
course
not weathered enough. They're not experienced enough to make all those mistakes. So I think you have to just be a little patient. Even though we don't have patience as human beings, you know, have patience. It'll come. If it's meant to be, it'll come. And that's the challenge within yourself.
And don't get discouraged, right?
It can't help it. Discouraged, but you know what? When you get discouraged, stop feeling sorry for yourself. You pick yourself up and then boom, move on. Feel bad for yourself for 6 seconds, but don't sit there and whine like a baby, okay?
we
Because
don't
you
like
know what?
whiners.
Not everybody gets the trophy. You know what I'm saying? Competition is competition. So you know what? You just don't hand somebody a trophy because all of a sudden they feel like, well, I've been here 30 years. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, who gives a shit?
Correct.
I
so
feel
I'm,
the same
I'm
way.
old
You got
school
that
that
too.
way.
I am too. It's like you have to work hard. Everybody, you know what? Everybody's not at the top at the same time.
And they may never be because
Yes.
they want to know something.
Everybody works hard.
Yeah, they work hard, but you know what? How important is it to you? Some people give up their whole lives for certain things. That's why they got in certain positions. You don't get the same position if you took, 7 years, and I'm not being mean, but you took 7 years off because you were raising children or this or that. Like, what are those people, like, play catch up? And so, you know what? Doubt yourself keeps you moving. Don't feel sorry for yourself all the time. There's always somebody richer. There's always somebody better looking. Stop looking what everybody else has and just move forward for what challenges you and yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Not what everybody else has. By looking at what it's like a horse race. They have the blinders on because they don't want you to see on the side. I never look back. In other words, I don't care what my industry is doing. I do my own thing, and that's what separated me from everybody else because I didn't know what they were doing, nor do I care. Once in a while, you look to see those sharks, and then you just say, you know what, I'm not getting involved. You know what I mean? It's like Madonna, I guess, telling her, like, she didn't want her kids watching the TV. She didn't want to hear the negative and her kids being exposed to that. So maybe, you know what, again, I'm not on that level, but maybe it teaches her kids something different where they have a little bit more of normalcy. Normalcy, sorry.
Or normality, whatever.
That's it. Normality.
It
I was gonna say normality, but it's okay. It all works.
It all works.
It all
Well, Larry, thank you so much for coming on
Thank you.
and inspiring other people. You're so inspirational.
No, thank you for
And I
having
love
me.
it.
Really.
Thank you. I
Thank
love
you,
it. I'm
thank you,
super,
thank you.
super excited. And tell everybody where to find you.
Lawrence Scott Events. We're out on Long Island. We moved our offices from Chelsea into Long Island. We're in Hicksville.
Your social media.
Lawrence Scott Events. Everything is Lawrence Scott Events.
Lawrence Scott Events. Larry Party. Hashtag is the Larry Party. Lawrence Scott Events. You could see all his fabulosity there on Instagram. And of course, you could look at my parties because Larry did them. Okay.
Thank you very much for
Larry.
having me.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Love
much.
you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Love you.
Thanks.